They walked into thin air and were never seen again. A man vanishes after whispering, "I don't want to die here." A student ends up dead in a locked rooftop tank. And a teenager boards a train to London and disappears forever. These are real horror stories with chilling footage showing the last moments before they disappear forever. Let's dive in. Lars Mittank was a 28-year-old German man who in June 2014, together with a few of his closest friends, flew to Varna, Bulgaria. But his relaxing holiday took a very dark turn during a heated argument in a bar. In the scuffle, Lars' ears was ruptured, leaving him shaken and in pain. Now usually this would not be that concerning, as most ruptured ears can heal on their own in just a couple of weeks. But remember, Lars was on a holiday, and so he was scheduled to fly home soon. But when the doctors examined him, they told him not to fly. And so when the holidays was finished, Lars' friends went home and he had to stay behind. However, this was not the end of his troubles. Lars was actually growing relentless and paranoid. Surveillance from the hotel near Varna airport captured him pacing hallways, hiding in elevators, and whispering to his mother on the phone that he was being followed and feared for his life. While it is not a common side effect because of Lars' affected hearing, that could have been the reason he started to have all these paranoid thoughts. And maybe because he could not hear very clearly, he could have thought that he was hearing all these voices. The final act unfolded at the airport on July 8, 2014. Lars, who was finally cleared to fly by a doctor, abruptly said, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." Then he dropped his luggage, bolted down a corridor, and barreled out of the exit. The footage then shows him sprinting across the car park, vaulting over a high fence, and vanishing into the nearby forest. And apparently, that was the end of everything. And Lars was never to be seen again. Now, because of this very haunting CCTV footage we have left, his case is often called the most famous missing person on YouTube, with millions having watched his dash into the oblivion. But as to where Lars is now, or whether he is still even alive, that we have no idea of. Back in early 2013, a 21-year-old Canadian student named Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was traveling alone, stopping in different cities, posting updates online, and even sharing bits of her struggles with mental health. Now, the Cecil isn't your average hotel. It's infamous, the kind of place you would expect to find in a horror movie. Serial killers have stayed there. Crime was constant, and something have always felt off in those walls. On January 31st, Elisa was supposed to check out, but she never did. Her stuff was still in the room, but Elisa was gone. Her family back in Canada were obviously very panicked when they didn't hear from her. Days passed, and then a week. Nothing. Flyers went up, the LAPD got involved, but they had no solid leads. Then the hotel released a piece of CCTV footage, and that's when the things got really weird. The clip showed Elisa inside of the hotel elevator. She looked very nervous, almost like she was being followed. She pressed all of the buttons at once, but the doors refused to close. She then peered out of it like she was checking if someone was there, and then ducked back in. She's seen then stepping out, making all these strange hand gestures, as if she was talking to someone invisible. and then she walked out of frame. Now this video went viral. Millions viewed it, and everyone was asking, where was Elisa? What was going on in that footage, and why was she hiding? But then things got worse. Everybody started complaining about the water, the pressure, dark color, and weird taste. So hotel maintenance went up to the roof, to the water tanks, and that's when they found her. Elisa's body was floating in one of the tanks, naked. Her clothes and belongings were there with her, but the hatch had been left open. And the thing is, those tanks were up on a restricted roof, and the doors were locked. Alarms should have gone off, but Elisa somehow got up there, and no one knows how. And the official ruling? Accidental drowning. Maybe her mental state led her up there, and maybe she was confused, and maybe she was desperate. But the details, they still don't add up. No drugs or alcohol in the system, no sign of struggle. And the lid? It was very heavy, extremely hard for one person to open. The truth is, no one really knows what happened that night, and it looks like we never will have the answers. What the video did remind me of was the Korean elevator game. It's not meant to be a real ritual, but more of an urban legend, and this can be played in a building of at least 10 floors. And the Hotel Cecil had 14. You need to be in the elevator alone and then press floor numbers in a very specific order. 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, and then 5. Then, if a mysterious woman enters the lift, you have to ignore her. Do not look at her, do not speak with her, just do nothing. And in the end, if you manage to get to the 10th floor, you're supposed to enter this another dimension. On April 1st, 2006, a man named Brian Shaffer, who was a second-year medical student, celebrated spring break with his friends. He and his roommate William did a bit of a bar hopping before meeting up with another one of Brian's friends called Meredith, who then drove everybody to a bar called the Ugly Tuna Saloon Bar, located in Columbus, Ohio. The CCTV footage captured the three heading in via escalators and then entering the bar at 1:15 a.m. At 2 a.m., there was another snippet of Brian re-entering the bar after chatting to a couple of women outside of it. But after this, there was never any other footage of him leaving. Not through the front door, not through the back stairwell, he simply vanished. The bar had only one path in and out, and all exits were under surveillance. Yet Brian somehow managed to disappear into the thin air. When his friends could not locate him, they tried calling his cell, but that was never answered, and so they assumed that they must have left before them, and so they too went on home. Brian's dad tried reaching his son the same weekend, and when Monday came and Brian missed his flight to Miami, a search was finally called in. All his friends and family were interviewed and even passed the lie detector test. Well, all apart from his roommate, who refused to take part in it. What is also interesting is the fact that some believe the camera missed Brian from actually entering the bar, and that he never re-entered it, but actually ended up going to the construction site, which was next door to the bar. In 2021, a man pictured in Mexico appeared to look like Brian, but the FBI concluded that it was not him, and so the case still remains unsolved. There's even a theory that foul play was involved, and that Brian might have been a victim of the smiley face serial killer, but this too remains just a theory. Now, his phone did ping a few days after his disappearance, but that only means that it was switched on, and it was not necessarily done by Brian himself. This vanishing act haunts investigators and internet sleuths alike, because Brian was reported to have no motive to disappear like that. In fact, earlier that night, he even rang his girlfriend and confirmed their upcoming trip to Miami, and it is even believed that Brian was actually going to propose to her over there. So there was nothing suggesting that Brian wanted to disappear. But of course, anything is possible, and so Brian could be living somewhere out there under a new identity. We just don't know that. Now, by the way, if you still haven't, now would be a really good time to hit that subscribe button. It will get you content like this delivered straight to your notifications, and it will also show me that you enjoy my videos. So it's a win-win. In the early hours of December 8, 2000, Trevor Deely, a 22-year-old Irish man, vanished under some very unsettling circumstances. Despite extensive investigations, public appeals, and unwavering efforts of his family, no trace of Trevor has ever been found. On the evening of December 7th, Trevor attended his workplace Christmas party. After spending time at several venues in Dublin, Trevor left a nightclub at approximately 3:25 a.m. About 10 minutes after leaving the club, Trevor arrived at his office. CCTV footage showed him speaking to a man dressed in all black, whose face was obscured by a hood. And intriguingly, this man had been waiting outside of the building for over 30 minutes before Trevor arrived. Now, inside of the office, Trevor made tea, spoke with a colleague, and checked his emails and made notes about the work for the following day. At 4:03 a.m, Trevor left the office with an umbrella and resumed his journey home. And around this time, he left a voicemail for a friend, reassuring him that all was going well. And CCTV footage later captured Trevor walking past the bank at 4:14, and approximately 30 seconds later Trevor passed, a man dressed in black was seen walking in the same direction. And this was the last confirmed sighting of Trevor. Now, his absence was not immediately noticed, but when he did not come to work on Monday, his family reported him missing. Search efforts were extensive, but unfortunately, they did not bring any clues or any information. Also, crucial evidence may have been lost when the area was cleaned in preparation for President's visit. Then came even a bigger shock. In 2023, the police identified and cleared the man in black who was seen following Trevor. But interestingly, the man who spoke to Trevor outside of the office still remains unidentified. But this is not everything. For some reason, Trevor chose to take a much longer route home that night. And so we have to ask the question, was he out to meet someone else? It seems like we shall never know this, because now Trevor's case has gone completely cold. In the morning of September 14, 2007, in the quiet suburb of Balby, Doncaster, a 14-year-old boy named Andrew Gosden woke up more tired than usual. He then left home for what appeared to be a normal school day, but suddenly he stopped at a local ATM and withdrew £200. Then, instead of boarding the school bus, he headed back home, tossed his uniform in the wash, dressed in a black Slipknot t-shirt and jeans. He filled a satchel with his PSP and essentials, but left behind his birthday cash and even his PSP charger. At 9:35 a.m, Andrew was seen buying a one-way ticket to London. And this was seen as a very unusual thing to do, because a return ticket would only have costed him 50p more. But when Andrew was explained this, he still refused. Fast forward to 10:20 a.m, he was seen on CCTV walking out of King's Cross Station in London. And then, that was it. He seemed to have completely vanished. Despite an expensive search, probably one of the largest in Britain's history to that point, there was never any new information or CCTV captures. One haunting fact was that the station's CCTV footage was not reviewed until nearly 4 weeks later, and that was only when Andrew was finally spotted. And sadly by then, most cameras would have been overwritten, and so we have to be asking if this was found earlier, maybe we could have gotten more evidence from the other cameras. In the years since, police have arrested 2 men on trafficking suspicions, but again, they found no clear leads. His family has never stopped looking, and they have distributed posters, commissioned sonar searches of the Thames, even issued age-progressed images, hoping that someone out there would finally recognize him. The investigators have ruled out online grooming because Andrew barely used his PSP online. And also, he wasn't streetwise. He always told his parents where he was going, but for some reason, that day, he didn't. Since the investigation began, only a handful of cult sightings were reported. This was apparently from a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street, and then another one of someone sleeping in a park, but neither of those were ever confirmed. There of course have been many questions and theories. The most burning one is what made Andrew leave? He was one of the top performing kids at his school, he had friends, he was loved by his family, he did not seem to have any issues. So why run away? And if he did not run away, then who did he travel to London to meet that day? Or was someone else there already with him, and we just missed that person on the camera? But again, if this was just a day out in London, why would he not buy a return ticket? Also, he left his birthday money behind, so he probably thought that he didn't need to have that much money on him that day. This would all mean that he was planning on coming back, but again, there was no return ticket. But he never took his charger or any spare clothes with him, so what was he doing? Many have suggested that the boy had been targeted and then sold on by human traffickers. While we have no proven evidence of this, it would seem that this could have been a very plausible scenario, because you have to remember that this was just a 14-year-old boy. He was not used to the big city life, and he was probably very trusting as well. To this day, the family as well as the police are still waiting on more answers. The case is still considered open, and so people are encouraged to stay vigilant. But it sadly seems that we shall never have any proper answers as to what had really happened to Andrew that day. And that is because so much time has already passed and no evidence has ever been uncovered. On December 13, 2009, a 30-year-old Stephen Koecher pulled up his heavy Chevy Cavalier into a tidy cul-de-sac in the upscale Sun City, Anaheim retirement community. He was neatly dressed, carrying something that looks like a portfolio. It could have been a resume or it could have been something else. About 6 minutes later, surveillance captured Stephen walking away. And that's the last we ever see of him in a video. Born on November 1st, 1979, Stephen was an Eagle Scout, a devout Mormon, and a University of Utah graduate. He was this quiet man with a good heart. He'd worked in several newspapers and on advertising, and then moved on to St. George for warm winters. But after the 2008 recession, he felt on hard times, handing out flyers for a window washing business to make ends meet. And even so, even days before his vanishing, he sounded very upbeat. In the week before he disappeared, Stephen drove over 1,100 miles across Utah and Nevada, making stops at an ex-girlfriend's parents, Las Vegas, and Mesquite. Then, on the morning of December 13, he ended up parking that cul-de-sac with no idea why. His phone pinged cell towers for 2 days later, drifting north into Las Vegas, but after that, there was complete silence. It likely died in some remote location, and days later his car was found, but its inside was still untouched. Gifts he brought for his family, pillows, blankets, a shaving kit, but his phone and wallet and ID were all gone. No note, no sign he planned to disappear, no indication of foul play. His family believed that he was in Henderson to look for work, and that he wouldn't drop everything to vanish. When Stephen parked, he knocked on a neighbor's door and said that he needed money, but then apparently he just walked away without the neighbor ever properly recognizing him. Now, private investigators speculate that this knock might have cost him dearly. Perhaps someone else lived there and reacted very badly. Search teams, police, volunteers, helicopters, even dogs swept the area, neighborhoods, desert canyons, foothills, but nothing was ever found. No clues, no bones, no traces. His family did held candlelight vigils and installed Christmas lights as a sign of hope. But even now, they still wait for answers because there's no closure, just the missing footage of their son. As always, make sure to let me know which one of these videos creeped you out the most. Until next time.